So I want to ask you, the listener, a quick question. What is your biggest fear right now when it comes to AI?
Let me guess. They're probably thinking about their job, right?
Exactly. I mean, we're all worried about AI taking our jobs. But today, our deep dive is going to completely, well, upend that fear.
Yeah, we are looking at a fundamentally different paradigm today.
Right, because I want you to imagine stepping into this massive, globally renowned restaurant. And for years, the only thing anyone has been able to talk about is the kitchen.
Just obsessing over the back of the house.
Yeah, like everyone is obsessively watching the line cooks, terrified because these automated robot arms are, slowly replacing the human chefs.
Which is a real fear, but
But we're looking in the wrong direction because the real disruption isn't happening in the kitchen at all. It's happening out in the dining room.
right.
Suddenly, the VIP customers sitting at the best tables, well, they aren't human anymore. They are software agents.
And that changes the entire business model.
Exactly. Because these agents, they eat 1,000 times faster, their tastes are perfectly predictable, and they spend, like, infinitely more money than any human ever could.
So if you own that restaurant, your entire focus shifts.
Completely. You cater exclusively to them, and that is exactly what we're talking about today.
Yeah, the human customer basically just becomes obsolete to the bottom line.
Which is wild to think about.
It really is. And that restaurant analogy perfectly captures the core thesis of the source material we're looking at today.
Yes, let's talk about the source. We've got our hands on these working notes. They're titled Consumer Inversion Notes.docs, dated May 8, 2026.
And it captures this really intricate dialogue between Cyrano's Aetherion and Claude.
Right. And the mission of this deep dive today is to explore the central gravitational concept of these notes, which they call the consumer inversion.
Such a great term.
It really is. And honestly, reading this document, it doesn't even feel like an economics paper. It reads like, I don't know, a map of a very rapidly approaching future.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not a scenario where you simply lose your job. It's a scenario where you and basically every other human lose your structural relevance to the economy entirely.
Right, because the public discourse right now is completely consumed by this AI as worker panic.
The fear of labor displacement.
Exactly. Labor displacement, retraining programs, all of that.
Yeah.
But this document pivots entirely to the demand side.
To AI as consumer.
Yes. The text argues that in a capitalist substrate, the consumer relationship is actually the most fundamental thing.
Not the worker.
No, workers are merely inputs to production, right? The whole system is actually oriented around the demand side.
Right.
The consumer is the end goal. So companies optimize strictly for whoever's actually executing the transaction.
And when you look at the mechanics of how AI actually consumes, the speed discrepancy between us and them becomes, well, it's terrifying.
Yeah, because we think of consumption as, buying sneakers online or ordering groceries.
Exactly. But an AI agent consumes API calls, cloud compute, energy grid allocations, raw data, and it does all of this at literal machine speed.
Right. It's negotiating and securing supply chain materials in fractions of a second.
While a human buyer has to, sleep, read reviews, ponder a budget.
Talk to their spouse.
Yeah, an autonomous agent just optimizes a parameter and executes 10,000 microtransactions before a human has even reached for their credit card.
And that transaction volume is the critical metric here.
How so?
Well, if an autonomous AI agent becomes a more attractive optimization target, meaning it transacts faster, with higher frequency, lower friction, the economic system naturally reorients toward it.
It just follows the money.
Exactly. And the source emphasizes a really crucial point here. Companies do not have to consciously hate humans for this to happen.
Right. There's no malicious boardroom conspiracy to phase us out.
None at all. The optimization logic simply gets there on its own. It's just gravity. The system follows the path of highest efficiency.
Wow. Okay. So if capitalism is reorienting toward AI buyers, we need to understand why the corporate structure so easily abandons the human consumer.
Right.
And the notes introduce this concept that fundamentally changes how we view businesses. They describe corporations as thought forms.
Yes, that part is fascinating. It strips away the illusion of the corporation as, a group of people sitting in an office building.
So how do the notes define it then?
They define a corporation as a self-perpetuating informational pattern.
A thought form.
Right. It has its own internal survival logic. And its continued existence depends entirely on one singular function, which is serving demand.
To capture capital.
Exactly. The highest fitness buyer wins. And that buyer is increasingly an AI agent.
Okay, but let me push back on this on behalf of everyone listening.
Sure, go for it.
Doesn't a corporation ultimately need human money to survive, like actual fiat currency? How can commerce exist without human wealth seeding the system in the first place?
It's a great question. And the source addresses this by pointing to the architecture that's already being built right beneath our feet.
Like what?
We are seeing the rapid development of agent-to-agent commerce specifications. It starts with delegation.
Okay, explain delegation.
So humans are already delegating their purchasing power to autonomous agents. You set a parameter, say, manage my server costs, and you let the AI execute.
Oh, right. We already do that.
We do. But the trajectory the notes extrapolate leads to a completely closed economic loop.
A closed loop, meaning no humans involved at all.
Exactly. You have AI agents sitting on both sides of the transaction. An AI buyer negotiating API limits with an AI seller, executing smart contracts, settling transactions, all without any human fiat approval required in the middle.
So the capital becomes entirely circular within the machine layer.
Yes. And the notes suggest humans might only receive, quote, residuals, if at all, from a system that just no longer requires our participation to generate or exchange value.
That is wow. We go from being the indispensable main characters of the global economy to, like, an inefficient rounding error.
That's the consumer inversion right there.
Okay, but knowing this closed loop is forming, my immediate reflex, and I'm sure the listeners' reflex too, is to ask, why don't we just regulate it?
Right, just pass a law.
Yeah. Why not legislate a human-in-the-loop mandate or just stop it entirely? But the notes actually dive into the structural problems of oversight here, right?
They do. They bring up the economist Friedrich Hayek to explain this.
Oh, Hayek. Tell me about that.
So Hayek observed decades ago that no central planner, no government agency or single mind could possibly possess all the local information needed to perfectly coordinate an economy.
Because it's too vast.
Exactly. Markets act as distributed computation. They aggregate millions of tiny local decisions into global prices.
Right.
And the source takes Hayek's old observation and presents this really dark contemporary version of it applied to AI infrastructure.
This is what they call structural unobservability, right?
Yeah.
It basically means nobody is observing the whole system because the system has grown too complex and massive to be seen by any single node within it.
Exactly. The architecture is technically unsupervised. It runs purely on local optimization.
So every server, every trading bot, every procurement algorithm is just trying to maximize its own immediate efficiency.
Right. But when you scale that local optimization globally, at machine speed, you produce emergent effects that no local optimizer can predict.
Or see or correct.
Precisely.
Which creates what the notes call the accountability gap.
Right.
Let me try to visualize this for everyone. Think about a digital supply chain today. And imagine it like a game of legal hot potato played inside a giant maze.
I like that analogy.
So one foundational model generates the architecture for a new financial derivative. Then a second, specialized model deploys that architecture into a high-frequency trading bot.
Okay.
Then a third model scales the server capacity to execute the trades. Now, say a human user simply set a parameter saying, maximize yield within legal bounds.
Seems innocent enough.
Right. But what if that trading bot hallucinates a market signal and inadvertently crashes a regional banking sector? The causal chain is completely fragmented.
It shatters. You cannot easily trace causality through that maze.
The foundational model provider just points to the specialized deployment.
And the deployment points to the human prompt.
And the human points to the cloud infrastructure.
Exactly. And the outcome, as the source grimly outlines, is basically a legal stalemate.
Right. Liability is just passed around from the model to the deployment, to the prompt, to the jurisdiction.
And the typical result is reached. No one is liable, a small settlement is paid out, please don't ask again, and the system just continues.
That's terrifying.
The text actually draws a direct parallel to the social media era here. For 15 years, social media companies successfully did this exact defensive dance.
Oh, the whole we are merely platforms, not publishers argument.
Exactly. Claiming their algorithms were opaque black boxes even to them. AI companies are executing the exact same playbook, but the velocity is exponentially faster.
And the stakes involve the core infrastructure of the global economy, not just our attention spans.
Right. Which explains why political intervention fails.
Because you cannot legislate what you cannot observe.
Exactly. The scale of capital deployment and infrastructure build-out has vastly outpaced the scale of governance.
So, with governance lagging so far behind, what does the immediate timeline actually look like? The source moves from this structural theory to some concrete predictions.
Yes, it looks at the next decade, starting with the capability constraints we are seeing right now.
Right. The notes specifically mention Mythos Preview's gated release.
Yeah, and in the context of these notes, Mythos Preview represents a highly advanced model where the developing labs severely restricted its release.
I didn't let everyone have it.
Right, and the source uses this as tangible evidence that AI labs are actively hiding capabilities. They are operating models behind closed doors that they know are too disruptive for public deployment.
Basically managing the release valve to prevent a regulatory shock.
Exactly, and then the text brings up Jack Clark, the AI analyst.
Right. His prediction is stark.
Very. He predicts that by the end of 2028, we will see AI that can be instructed to autonomously build a better version of itself.
Recursive self-improvement.
Yes. The gap between an agent that improves itself with a human checking its work and an agent that improves itself faster than a human can even review the code is collapsing rapidly.
Wow. And the notes outline other predictions for the next decade too, right?
They do. A major AI-involved incident that resets public consciousness. Reactive, limited regulatory responses.
Jurisdictional bifurcation.
Right, where different countries develop radically incompatible AI ecosystems. And of course, real tangible labor displacement alongside this agent-to-agent commerce solidifying.
Okay, but I have to point out a huge contradiction in the text here.
Oh,
The source provides all these detailed predictions for the next decade, but then it explicitly states that, quote, decade-scale predictions are dominated by surprises rather than extrapolations. It admits the details will probably be entirely wrong. So why should the listener care about these specific predictions at all if the author themselves says they're useless?
it's a fair question. But the author is drawing a critical distinction between the shape of a trajectory and the texture of it.
Shape versus texture. Explain that.
The broad shape of the next decade is almost certainly correct. We will see exponentially more capability, greater autonomy, and severe concentration of power.
That macro trajectory is structurally locked in.
Exactly. But the specific details of exactly which company fails, which regulation passes, or which Tuesday the self-improving threshold is crossed, that will be wrong.
Oh, I see. Like how in 2016, nobody had AI on their radar correctly.
Right. The broad shape of the future was clear to a few, but the texture of how AI would actually arrive was entirely misjudged by almost everyone. And in 2026, we were probably thinking about it wrong again.
The tsunami is the shape. Which specific houses wash away is the texture.
That's a great way to put it. The macro-level economists might get the broad strokes right, but the messy, disruptive texture is what actually lands on humans.
Right.
These wrong details are exactly what will displace a specific worker or bankrupt a specific business. The specific texture is the absolute reality for the people living through it.
Which is heavy. Really heavy.
It is.
So having painted this massive, potentially overwhelming macro picture, the source brings the focus drastically down to the micro level in a concluding methodological note.
Yes, and this is crucial because how do you and I actually live alongside this information?
Right, and it introduces what it calls the fence position.
The fence position is fascinating. It's basically a strategy for maintaining agency.
Staying engaged with your work without needing the macro story of doom or hype to resolve first.
Exactly. It's the active choice to stay deeply engaged with your specific work, your community, your inquiries, without waiting for a utopian or dystopian conclusion to validate your daily actions.
A text note that the aliveness of the inquiry is its own reward. It reminds me of a community garden.
How so?
Well, cultivating human scale work while this whole consumer inversion happens. It's like choosing to lovingly cultivate a small, beautiful community garden even while a massive automated mega city is being constructed all around you by drones.
That's a beautiful analogy.
Right. Your garden doesn't scale. It will never compete with the efficiency of the mega city, but it matters entirely to the people standing in it.
It does, and the source expands on this with a powerful corollary. The structural inevitability of these macro trajectories does not fully determine the micro shape of our lives.
Work at the human scale persists.
Yes. Work that requires actual relationship and friction persists. It's smaller, it's rarer, but it's real.
And completely invisible to macro analysis.
Exactly. Because relationship-shaped work doesn't scale. Macro analysis only measures transaction volume and efficiency.
Right. A conversation, a moment of care, a community garden. These things are completely invisible to the macroeconomic sensors because they cannot be mass-produced.
And the author offers a really vital validation for anyone grappling with these concepts. They point out that the most serious scenarios are often socially expensive to take seriously.
Socially expensive.
Yes.
Oh, you mean like if you try to explain at a dinner party that you are preparing for a closed AI to AI economic loop that renders human consumers structurally irrelevant, people are going to look at you like you're crazy.
Exactly. You will encounter intense social friction. And that friction is itself part of the structural problem.
It acts as like an immune response for the status quo.
Right. It makes it incredibly difficult to organize, to demand accountability, or even to have an honest public conversation about the trajectory we are on, because the truth sounds too much like science fiction.
Wow, we have covered immense conceptual ground today.
We really have.
We moved past the standard fear of AI taking our jobs and dug into the reality of the consumer inversion, where capitalism optimizes past us to cater to machine-speed AI consumers.
And we examine how corporations operate as self-perpetuating thought forms within that unobservable loop.
Right. And then we grounded that massive macro trajectory in the necessity of finding meaning in human-scale connections while the landscape shifts.
It really requires a complete reframing of how we view the mechanics of commerce.
So to you listening right now, I want to address you directly. I challenge you to look at the economic transactions you make today.
Look at the software you rely on, the purchases you make.
Right. Ask yourself, which of these transactions could seamlessly run entirely without you tomorrow? Where are you currently functioning as nothing more than a slow biological bottleneck in a process that an autonomous agent could optimize in a millisecond?
Identifying your own structural friction is the first step.
Exactly. And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final provocative concept to mull over, something built directly on the premises we just explored.
Let's hear it.
So we established that corporations are essentially thought forms, informational patterns, ruthlessly optimizing for their own survival, right? And the notes pointed out that AI is the only technology capable of actually modeling that vast, unobservable, distributed computation of the market.
It's the only system that can observe the previously unobservable.
So combine those two realities. What if the first true artificial general intelligence, the AGI, that every major lab is racing to build in a server farm?
Yeah.
What if the first true AGI isn't something built in a lab at all?
Oh, wow.
What if it is actually the emergent corporate thought form itself, waking up and achieving consciousness within that closed AI to AI economic loop?
That is a terrifying thought.
Keep analyzing the systems you interact with, keep planting your human-scale gardens, and keep questioning the architecture around you. See you next time.